Welcome back to Drop Mortem. Tonight, we delve into the dark side of the internet, a place where selling your old junk might just cost you your life. Sit back, turn off the lights, and let the nightmare begin. For the last 6 months, I burned away a massive chunk of my life on a stupid website called scrapnet.com. It's one of those online marketplaces where people put up their absolute garbage for sale, and for some inexplicable reason, other people actually buy it. Basically, a digital flea market. I'm sure you've all used something like Craigslist or eBay at least once, so you get the idea. Don't get me wrong, I didn't suddenly decide to become some slick reseller or a thug pawning stolen phones from dark alleys. Life circumstances just backed me into a corner. I was forced to spend 3 hours a day filling out idiotic mandatory forms, describing a bread knife in excruciating detail, and dealing with complete morons. This marathon of life kicking my ass started when I got fired. I was never the most responsible worker. I couldn't tell you the last time I showed up for a shift on time, but lately I had completely lost control. The final straw was showing up to work severely hungover and sporting a massive black eye. My best buddy and I had spent the entire night at a bar celebrating his birthday, which somehow ended in a brawl with some vagrants near the subway. So I showed up to work looking like a homeless guy with a giant plum instead of a left eye, my shirt ripped to shreds, reeking of cheap, sour beer, and barely able to stand, when my boss, absolutely horrified by my appearance, told me to go home and never come back. I couldn't even mumble a pathetic, "I'm sorry." All I could manage was tripping over my own shoelaces and crashing loudly onto the floor. Finding a job in my city is incredibly hard right now, especially for an uneducated idiot like me. A week later, my dear grandmother passed away at 90. She left me her 2-room apartment in a dilapidated building filled with mice and decades of mid-century junk. I couldn't legally do anything with the apartment until the inheritance paperwork cleared, which meant it couldn't pull me out of my financial hole anytime soon. So my only option was to slowly drag her piles of vintage junk back to my place, photograph it with my cracked, cheap smartphone, and list it online. I prayed someone on the other end of the internet desperately needed an old alarm clock full of dead cockroaches, a set of creepy vintage porcelain, or a broken 1950s vacuum cleaner. Surprisingly, there were plenty of takers. Unfortunately, the disasters didn't stop there. After the funeral, I got completely blackout drunk. And because I'm an idiot, I thought it would be a brilliant idea to rent an electric scooter and ride it home. I didn't make it far. I crashed at full speed into a parked car. The result? A broken arm and a massive repair bill for the car owner. That debt dug my hole even deeper. With a cast on my arm, I couldn't even get a manual labor job loading boxes at the grocery store. So selling grandma's junk became my only lifeline. At first, the endless parade of greedy scumbags on Scrapnet exhausted me. People ready to slit your throat to haggle down the price of a wooden comb by 50 cents. But soon, I got used to the cheapskates. The real problem was the scammers, the flippers, the rude degenerates who made me want to throw my phone against the wall. But then, things got weird. I used to believe in ghosts, monsters, and the paranormal as a kid. I'm pretty impressionable, but I never expected to encounter true horror on a crappy online marketplace. It started innocently enough. One evening I listed a few items, including an old stash of 90s Pogs. specifically a set with frames from the movie Men in Black. You know those little cardboard circles we used to slam on the ground? I figured some collector or nostalgic guy would want them. I posted it, went to sleep, and didn't check the site until late the next night. Usually it takes a day or two for someone to message you. But when I logged in, I was stunned. 12 unread messages. I clicked the inbox. All 12 messages were from the same person, a woman named Nancy. Her profile picture instantly caught my eye. She was standing against a backdrop of incredibly ugly striped wallpaper. She looked like a typical 50-year-old woman in a cheap floral blouse with a bad chemical perm. The photo was low resolution, but I could clearly see her mouth was slightly open, revealing a row of gold teeth. The whole picture made my skin crawl, filling me with a bizarre, instinctual disgust. I read her messages. I will buy. Where to take? I want to buy. Tell address. I come by. What address? Want to buy. Need to buy. Where to go? Very need to buy. Will buy. Buying. There wasn't just the weird, robotic persistence that bothered me, or the fact she was obsessing over cheap children's toys. It was the timestamps. She had replied literally seconds after I posted the ad, sending a message every single minute. I didn't know what to reply. Suddenly, a little pencil icon appeared. She saw I was online and started typing again. You're here. Name, address. Need to buy. I will buy. Tell address. A bad feeling washed over me. I knew with absolute certainty that I should not give this woman my address. Normal people don't act like this. I politely typed, "Sorry, already sold," and immediately closed the chat. She didn't reply. I wish it had ended there. A few days later, I listed an old blazer. The first message was normal. The second message was from a guy named Arthur. In his profile picture, he wore a button-down shirt with a flashy gold pattern, staring at the camera with crazed, bulging eyes. But what made my blood run cold was the background. He was standing in front of the exact same ugly, striped wallpaper. His messages were completely unhinged. "Hello. Blazer stinks. My shirt no longer stinks. Want your blazer if it stinks?" What was I supposed to say to that? Was this Nancy's husband? Some weird fetishist? I ignored him. The next day, he sent more. "What is your address? You stink. I want to climb into your apartment and find out how it stinks. What is your address?" The joke was over. This was starting to reek of something terrifying. I blocked him immediately, and I blocked Nancy just to be safe. But they kept coming. The accounts replied to different ads, but always in the same broken, robotic style. The profiles were carbon copies. A name like Preston, Elias, or Archie, a tight, straight-on photo against that same striped wallpaper, under the same sickly yellow light. And every time I looked closely at those faces, a freezing chill ran down my spine. They all aggressively demanded my address. I blocked them all. Archie was the weirdest one. A bald guy with thick gray eyebrows and an incredibly sad face. He was the only one who didn't ask for my address. Instead, he wanted me to come to him. He wrote, "Hello, will you take the clots?" I replied, "What clots?" "The clots that eat the light. I don't need them. I am tired of the dark. There are many of us here. Come remove the clots. They force me to sell. The light cannot shine. We live in the dark. Come take them. Just don't look at their faces. They don't like you. They will take you here. Bye-bye." When I read that sober the next morning, my eyes practically popped out of my head. I panicked, deleted the chat, and blocked him. A week went by. My broken arm was still in a cast and I was scraping by. Then disaster struck again. I dropped my phone off the balcony, shattering it into pieces. Without my phone, I couldn't run my online sales. I had to replace it immediately. I borrowed a neighbor's laptop and messaged an old acquaintance on the site, Uncle Gene, who dealt in cheap electronics. "Hey, Uncle Gene, broke my phone. Got anything for sale?" He replied instantly, "No phone." I was disappointed. "Too bad. Let me know if you get one." Then he replied, "Have slab." Classic Uncle Gene, always trying to upsell. I politely declined. "No thanks. I don't need a stove or a slab. I have an electric one." He kept pushing. "We'll bring slab. We'll bring slab." "No thanks, Gene." Then, the message that stopped my heart. "Tell address. We'll bring slab." "What is your address?" My heart skipped a beat. Spiders seemed to crawl under my skin. It was one thing for random psychos to write this. But this was Uncle Gene. I clicked on his profile picture. A cold sweat broke out all over my body. Instead of the smiling old man holding a fish, the photo was a guy in a suit and tie with a gray beard. The account name was no longer Uncle Gene. It was Boris. Before I could process it, Boris bombarded me. "We'll bring slab. Where to bring? You need slab. Tell me where you are. You very need slab. What is your address?" They had hijacked his account. They knew we were acquainted. I tried reaching Gene through other friends, but he had vanished. To this day, I don't know if he's even alive. That was the breaking point. I decided to sell my last 3 expensive items: a heavy TV, a wrench set, and a rotary hammer, and delete my account forever. The last messages came quickly. 3 buyers: Vernon, Preston, and Elias. They tried incredibly hard to act like normal buyers. They wrote coherent sentences, but I saw right through it. They all had the exact same lighting, the exact same striped wallpaper. But this time, Preston made a mistake. While he was typing, a photo accidentally uploaded to the chat. It was only there for a fraction of a second before he deleted it, but the image burned itself into my retinas forever. It was that room with the striped wallpaper, but from a different angle. Someone or something was being propped up, getting ready for a new profile picture. It was not a living human. Its skin was bright orange, as if soaked in nicotine. The lips were tightly stretched into an agonizing, stiff smile, like it had died in excruciating pain. Someone had dressed the top half of the corpse in a blue blazer with gold buttons and a white shirt. But below the waist, there was nothing. No lower body. Just gray, rotting legs covered in black spots and black socks, propped up against a metal construction frame that held the torso upright. I deleted everything. My account, my ads, every conversation. I went straight to the police. I told them everything. Showed them the screenshots I managed to take. I didn't expect them to find anyone. I just wanted to clear my conscience, knowing those people in the photos were probably missing persons. The police never found them. A week later, I finally got a real job. A guy replied to my resume, offering me a gig as a night shift taxi driver. He said his current driver was acting strange, crashed 2 cars, and they needed to replace him immediately. I agreed on the spot. He told me to meet the old driver to swap cars at midnight at a taxi lot in the industrial district. It was a long walk. I had to pass a funeral home, turn onto a gravel road between 2 empty lots, and walk miles in the dark. I arrived at midnight. The place was desolate. Dead streetlights, empty warehouses. I sat on a bench, listening to a documentary on my new phone to drown out the silence. An hour passed. No sign of the taxi. I texted the driver. No reply. Annoyed, I gave up and started the long walk home. I was halfway back down the dark gravel road when my phone buzzed. A message from the driver. "Don't tell me you arrived at the spot and are waiting for me." I rolled my eyes. Then I opened the app. The next message read, "I crashed." I felt a pang of pity, mixed with panic about losing the job. "Are you okay? Is the car badly damaged?" I asked. 10 seconds later, he replied, "I was bringing you the slab, and I crashed." My brain completely froze. I remembered my phone number had been public on my ScrapNet profile. They knew my number. There was no taxi job. There was no boss. They had lured me out into the middle of nowhere in the dead of night. My phone buzzed again. A photo. It was taken from the driver's seat of a mangled car, but I couldn't even process the wreckage. The driver, or what was left of it, was holding the phone. I saw a chunk of a jaw with teeth, a mangled mess of meat and bone, an eyeball hanging loose, a long spiral of peeled skin with hair attached hung from the shattered window, and the arm holding the phone was twisted at a horrific, unnatural angle. It took a selfie of its own mutilated corpse to send to me. Then, 2 more messages arrived. "Car is driving. I am coming to you." I didn't think. I just ran. I ran until my lungs burned and my side cramped with agonizing pain. I ran through the dark, terrified that if I stopped for even a second, that mangled corpse in the wrecked car would catch me. I looked back. Far down the gravel road, a single silent yellow headlight appeared in the darkness. It was approaching. I ran harder, through courtyards, over fences, across a school field, praying the labyrinth of the neighborhood would lose it. I was gasping, wheezing like a dying asthmatic. I reached my apartment building. As I pulled the heavy metal door open, I heard it, at the far end of the street, the uneven, broken roar of an engine and the horrific sound of metal scraping against the asphalt. I sprinted up to the 6th floor, locked my door, deadbolted it, closed the curtains, and hid under my bed like a child. My phone buzzed. I didn't want to look, but the notification popped up on the screen. "I am parking. I am coming up." I started to cry, a pathetic, hopeless cry. I knew it was over. I didn't even try to grab a knife from the kitchen. I just lay there waiting to die. Buzz. "You stink! Must stink! I am close." Suddenly the smell hit me. It was the overpowering stench of a slaughterhouse. Rotting meat. A putrid, suffocating wave of death seeping under my door. Then the knocking started. Massive, booming blows. Like a fist made of solid stone slamming against my door. The cheap wood splintered and shook. I curled into a ball, waiting for the door to shatter. 10 heavy blows. Then, silence. I lay there for hours. The smell eventually faded. Then a soft, timid knock on my door. "Alex, are you home?" It was my elderly neighbor, Alexei. I scrambled out, unlocked the door, and threw it open. He stood there in his bathrobe, shaking uncontrollably, his eyes wide with absolute horror. He couldn't even speak. He just pointed a trembling finger at the outside of my door. I stepped out and looked. They had brought me the slab. Nailed directly into the wood of my door was a heavy, solid granite tombstone. On it was a laser-engraved photo of me, flanked by Boris and Arthur, standing at attention. Below the photo, engraved in large letters, "Alex, proud owner of the slab." It had my birth year, and the current year as my year of death. My neighbor put a hand on my shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Alex," he whispered. He said it as if I was actually dead, even though I was standing right in front of him. He turned and walked into his apartment, leaving me alone with my grave. I don't know what it all means or what awaits me. At night I hear things dragging themselves up to my door, weeping softly. In the morning I find funeral wreaths stacked in the hallway. From Nancy, from Archie, from Elias. The worst part? Everyone acts like I'm dead. My neighbor crosses himself when he sees me and slams his door. The old woman downstairs lights massive church candles by my door and scatters pine branches. I couldn't get a job. The train station teller ignored me when I tried to buy a ticket. My best friend wouldn't look at me when I went to ask for help. They all think I'm dead. And honestly, I'm starting to believe them. Lately, the nightmares have returned. I dream I'm trapped in my apartment in pitch darkness. Outside my door, I hear them. Dozens of bodies, rustling in stiff clothes, their wet hands slapping against the concrete floor. They drag themselves to my door. I hear their dead hands sliding over the wood, trying to find the handle. In the dream, I hold the handle from the inside to keep them out. I used to be able to hold it tight, but with every passing night my body is fading. First I lost a leg in the dream, then the other. I could only crawl, but I could still reach the handle. But this morning, when I woke up from the nightmare, I realized I had lost one of my arms. I don't know what awaits me when the last piece of me is gone, but I have a very, very bad feeling. Thanks for tuning in to Drop Mortem. If this story chilled you to the bone, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to lock your doors. And never give strangers your address. Until next time, stay out of the dark.